Church. Good morning. How are you guys? Woo! Hey, was the music not amazing today? I mean, oh my goodness. And if you didn't hear earlier in the service, that was Brooke and Jeremiah, who are the worship leaders at our Fenwick location. And I thought I'd take you on a little Bay Shore Wikipedia real quick. We are one church in several different locations. We have our original location in Gumboro, which we say Millsboro because Gumboro doesn't have a post office. So when you send mail to the Gumboro church, it goes to Millsboro. Okay, so we got the Millsboro location opened in 1981. Then we opened when? 2011. And then Fenwick opened up in 2019. And if you think about what happened in 2019, not a great year to start a campus, you know what I'm saying? But Fenwick is doing amazing, and Brooke and Jeremiah, you can come anytime you want, okay? That was just amazing right there. Maybe this is your first time here. The last service, I met so many first-time guests, people from New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We had somebody from Slovakia that was here last service, and so it's amazing to meet all the different people who are coming here. So maybe that's you today. Maybe this is your first time in our basement. Welcome to church. My name is Joel. I'm one of the people on the team here. And after this service, I'm always out in the lobby in the back left corner. And if you didn't turn in your welcome home card with the giving, you can come and give that to me after the service. And even if you did turn it in, come by and say hi. All right, I spend 10 minutes out there, as long as it takes, really, to just chat with first-time guests. And if you're a regular, I want to talk to you after I talk to the first-time guests, okay? And so please come back and see me. I got some stuff for you. And our online family joins us every single week. And I think that they're not here today because they went to the fireworks in Rehoboth last night. Okay, anybody do the fireworks last night? Okay, a lot of people. Few over here, lots over here. Same last service. Nobody over there. The firework people sit on this side. I don't know why. But a lot of people who maybe are watching online today because you may be a little sleepy, got in traffic yesterday. And so can we just make some noise for online family? Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. Hey, if you missed last weekend, we kicked off this new series of talks called Leftovers, which is a super weird title for a message series. And I also think that the rice in this Tupperware looks super weird. And I say rice, I'm 99% sure that's rice. What do you think? Okay, it's just, see, chicken, chili, it's debatable. That's the thing with leftovers. You never know what you got, okay? Isn't that true? And that's the idea for this whole leftovers series. Like, you don't know what you're going to get week to week because I told you last week, I have these ideas for messages all the time, and sometimes they don't fit in a series. And when that happens, I put that idea in a Tupperware, I stick it in my fridge, and I hope I can get to it before it gets moldy. And so this series, we're just pulling out 4 random talks that have been stuck in the fridge, and we called it Leftovers. Everybody say Leftovers. All right, to set up today's leftover talk, quick question for you. And if you're new here, we're allowed to talk in church. And so you can shout this out loud, your answer to this. And if you're an introvert, you don't have to say anything. You just sit there quietly. We're glad you're here, okay? But here's my question for you. I'd love for you to answer out loud. What is your hometown? What is your hometown? Whenever I do that, I literally cannot pick out one thing that was said. So I don't know anybody. My hometown is Gumboro, Delaware. Anybody else from Gumboro, Delaware hometown? One person, because he's my brother. But Gumboro, Delaware, listen, Gumboro is so small that I remember, like, growing up, all right, when you would drive through Gumboro, I remember this sign in front of this house, it said, fresh muskrat for sale. I'm not lying. Okay, listen, I don't want to know in the lobby if you've had fresh muskrat. Okay, don't tell me that you got muskrat in your fridge, no leftover muskrat. I don't know, but we were a small town with muskrat signs and no traffic lights. But we did have a few things in Gumboro. We had the Gumboro store, which was the first place I ever got a peanut butter tasty cake. Come on, somebody. We had our church, Gumboro, which was formerly known as Gumboro Fellowship Church. And then the third thing we had was my childhood home, and we have a picture from like a 1986 drone or something, okay? This is where I grew up. And this is my bedroom was down here, and then the church. And so, listen, I live so close to the church that my Sunday school teacher could see in my living room window from the Sunday school class. That's too close, people. When your house is so close to the church that it serves as like the overflow bathroom on Easter Sunday if too many people show up to church, too close. But I had a great childhood here, and a couple things I want to point out about this picture that some of them are not on here. Okay, one, behind the trailer is a garage. There used to be a swing set to the left and back corner of the garage, which was great for me as a kid that the church got a swing set, because I don't know if you heard or not, but I lived in the church parking lot. And so I remember one day I was in the church, on that church swing, and I was swinging, and I got the highest I'd ever gotten on the swing, okay? I got to the point where the chain was getting slack in it and then snapping back. You know what I'm talking about? And I remember I got so high at one point, I thought I could see the top of the church steeple. And I thought, this is the perfect place for me to jump. And so I sent it, okay? I launched off of the swing, and I'm flying through the air, and I don't know if I got distracted by a gumbo or muskrat or what, but I lost my landing spot. And so I went past the soft sand, and I'm getting into the hard, the hard grass area. And this is not 2024 where every kid has a helmet on and is wrapped in bubble wrap, okay? And you got a helicopter parent, everywhere just trying to catch you. This was 1986. We used to eat lead paint for breakfast in 1986, okay? And so I'm like 1986, helmetless, flying through the air, and I smacked on the church grass. And I remember I got so hurt. I remember laying there that it didn't knock the wind out of me. It knocked the esophagus out of me. And I remember thinking, if I'm dead, at least my funeral will be right there. You know what I mean? The church is right there. I remember I was always getting hurt at church. I remember my brother one time, this garage here, my brother one day came running from the garage to the trailer, and he's yelling, "Help, Mom, I need a drink of water." And my mom's like, "Why? What happened?" And my brother said, "I drank gas." Verbatim, I drank gas. Okay, now I have a couple of kids of my own, and I've heard them say some weird stuff. I have never heard one of my kids say, "I drank gas." And so my mom was like, "You did not drink gas. Let me smell your breath." She smelled his breath, and the next thing we know, we were in the emergency room. And it's still debatable in our family if Tim just put his mouth on a nozzle or if he drank gas. We don't know. He's doing pretty good, so I'm going to say just the nozzle. I don't know. But growing up at church was a ton of fun, but we got hurt all the time. It's a wonder I'm even standing on this stage right now. And I tell you all that because today I want to talk about a few things, but one of the things I want to talk about is church hurt. Now, I'm not even going to ask you, hey, raise your hand if you got some church hurt, because everybody who's ever been in a church, which you've been to one apparently, everyone who's been to a church has some church hurt, okay? And every church on the planet, including this one, if you give us enough time, will hurt you. Aren't you glad you came to church today? But do you know why that is? Because church is full of people. And people are jacked up. In fact, turn to the person next to you and say, "You are jacked up." You are jacked up. Some of you, you've been waiting to tell your spouse that. You got an argument this morning, and that just felt so good. But listen, people are broken, starting with the guy on the stage. Hello. But I still 100% believe that even if a church isn't perfect, even if our church isn't perfect, I believe that the church is still Jesus' plan A, for you and I to live for him, to follow him, and to grow in him. And so, with that in mind, today's leftover talk, I want to talk about this. We'll put it on the screen. How to get the most out of your time at church, even if you have church hurt. Now, to set this up, I want to tell you a wild Jesus story today, okay? And I call this Jesus story the awkward dinner with friends situation. Now, have you ever been to Thanksgiving and it was an awkward family Thanksgiving dinner? Has this ever happened to anybody? Is it just you? Listen, this puts any awkward family dinner situation you've ever had to shame, okay? And so we're going to be looking at this in the book of Luke. There is a similar story in all of the other three Gospels, but it's not the same story. That story was about Mary, Jesus' friend. Different story, this one. Okay, so we'll put it on the screen. If you don't have a Bible, by the way, when you leave today, grab one. They're out in the lobby. They are free. They are not 99 cents. They are free, okay? But in the meantime, it says this. It says, one of the Pharisees. Everybody say the Pharisees. Now, whenever you see the Pharisees in the Bible, this is the bad guys. I always tell you, just imagine you hear Jaws music, okay? So when one of the Pharisees asked Jesus to have dinner with him, so Jesus went to his home and he sat down to eat. When a certain immoral woman from that city heard he was eating there. Now, let me just pause there. We don't know this woman's name. We just call her, or it's you just labeled the immoral woman. This could be Connie. This could be Karen, okay? But have you ever noticed that religious people love to call you by what you did and not who you are? Okay, here's the addict. Here's the divorced person, okay? And so they just say, hey, this is the immoral woman. We don't know who she is. We just know what she did. But let me tell you, the label that has been put on you, that's what you did. That's not who you are. That's for free. Okay. So she brought a beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume, and then she knelt behind Jesus at his feet, weeping. Her tears fell on his feet, and she wiped them off with her hair. Then she kept kissing his feet and putting perfume on them. Now, I like to picture stories when I read the Bible, and so we just got to picture this. Okay, we got these religious leaders. We're going to call them, I don't know, how about we call them church chads? Everybody say church chads. Anyway, so we got these religious leaders, church chads, I'll call them, and then you have this immoral woman who most people believe this is the town prostitute. And so she is busting open the perfume bottle, the Burberry perfume. She's pouring it all over Jesus' feet. She's crying on Jesus' feet, and she's wiping Jesus' feet with her hair while the church chads are eating their hummus like, bleh, bleh. Is this awkward? Yes. And I just got a question for you. Just kind of, if you know anything about the Pharisees, do you think these Pharisees are going to make this immoral woman feel welcome? Yes or no? No. Now, I got to know, have you ever been somewhere and not felt welcome before? Has this ever happened to you before? I hope it did not happen this morning coming in. Okay, that will be my hope. But I remember a few months ago, our neighborhood occasionally will get a food truck to come into our neighborhood. And listen, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm from Gumboro, but food that comes out of a truck just tastes better. I love food out of a truck, okay? I love Taco Rio when that was originally a food truck, Smash Mouth Burgers. The Smiths who come here run Pretzelvania, which if you see the Pretzelvania truck, you go. I mean, maybe you're like, Annie Ann's is good. You ain't had nothing. So anyway, this is not about Pretzelvania, but our neighborhood sent out this ad that this food truck was going to be in the neighborhood. And I am pastor type. I don't like to spend money, but if I see a food truck's coming, I'm like, take my money. Just take all my money. And so I started texting my family and friends. I'm like, food truck's coming. You got to get here. It's going to be great. And so the day came. I was super excited. My brother and my sister-in-law showed up. These new pickleball, this couple that we met and been playing with, their name's Candy and Randy. I'm not kidding. When you're married and your name's Candy and Randy, that is fate. So they came, and so we're in line, and I'm the first one that goes up to the window, and as soon as I get to the window, the guy looks at me, and he's like, why? And he said, I'll take your order, but I ain't taking nobody else's order. You're the last one I'm going to take order for. And I'm thinking, am I at Walmart? Like, what happened? And so, anyway, this guy, and I'm the first person in line, and I have my wife behind me. I have, Tim and Jess. I have Candy and Randy, and I just looked at him, and I was like, y'all should have got here earlier, okay? So, no, but the guy looked at me. He said, this is a private event. And I'm like, well, our neighborhood, sent an advertisement out to the whole neighborhood. And then he was like, oh. And he looked at his coworker, and he's like, they advertise this to the entire neighborhood. That's why all these people are showing up. And so, anyway, I did not feel welcome. That's for sure. But I don't know if we crashed an 8-year-old's birthday party or if it was a bar mitzvah. I have no idea. But in their defense, they did feed all of us, okay? Now, they may have fed us fresh muskrat. I don't know. It tastes a little gamey. But my point is, I didn't feel welcome. And I think church hurt happens when we don't feel welcome. And almost all the issues boil down to, I didn't feel welcome. Okay, I didn't feel welcome at church because somebody called me out. I didn't feel welcome at church because, somebody, judged me, or they mistreated me. The church mistreated me, or I have church hurt and I didn't feel welcome because, the church used me, or I didn't feel welcome at church because I met that church person. Hello. And almost all church hurt comes down to, I didn't feel welcome. And so, have you ever felt not welcome in church? Has this ever happened before? Okay, some of you are like, I feel weird saying yes because I'm in a church. Maybe it's this, I don't know. But guess what? The immoral woman knows exactly how you feel. Okay, because the town prostitute, she wasn't allowed into the temple to worship God. She wasn't allowed in the temple to make sacrifices to get right with God. And she definitely wasn't accepted by all these religious leaders, okay? And so the immoral woman wasn't allowed at the temple. She was being judged by the moral authority of her day. But don't miss this. This is a good part. But she was welcome with Jesus. She was welcome with Jesus. And just so we don't surprise you around here, that is our goal as a church. Okay, I don't care. I don't care if you're the town prostitute, or the town drunk, or maybe it's way worse than that. Maybe you're one of those people who take up 2 parking spots in one car. You know who you are. But I want you to know this. You are welcome here. And if you got church hurt, and listen, church hurt can be a lot of things. It can be like, hey, the church had my back until they found I got divorced, and then they turned their back on me. Or, the church celebrated my recovery, and then wait, what? You relapsed? Okay, we don't want anything to do with you. That can be church hurt. Or, hey, the church said they had my back and they would always support me until they found out I was a teenager and I was, got pregnant. And then they turned their back on me. And the church stopped accepting you. But you know what the church will accept? Your tithe check. That's no good, is it? And so I just want to tell you, as somebody in the church, if that's happened to you, I'm sorry. And if I have hurt you, I really am sorry, because I want you to know that's not my goal for this church, and that isn't Jesus' goal for his church. And just so you know, and we'll put this on the screen, I always want Bay Shore, I always want this place to be a place where everyone always feels welcome, and nobody is treated like a second-class citizen. This is who we are, because I think this is Jesus' dream for his church, don't you? Now, Jesus did talk about his church some, okay? I don't know if you know this, but Jesus said some things about his church. And maybe you've heard some people say some stuff about church before. Maybe you've heard somebody say, hey, I love Jesus. I'm down with Jesus. I just don't need church. You ever heard that before? And listen, no judgment. I get it. I get it. But Jesus did say, hey, the church is my bride. And so saying, hey, I love you, Jesus, but I don't really like your church. That's like saying to me, hey, Joel, I love you. You're great. I can't stand your wife, though. Listen, I know I'm a Christian and a man of the cloth and all. I may punch you in the throat if you say that about my wife. But another thing Jesus said is, hey, I will build my church. I will never abandon my church. And so I was saying, well, hey, God, I know you wouldn't abandon your church, but I'm going to. I think Jesus is like, no, I made this place for you. I want you to grow here. And if church mattered to Jesus, I think it should matter to us. And so how do we get the most out of our time at the church, even if we got church hurt? And this is kind of like a one big idea message today, and so we'll put this on the screen. It's this. To get the most out of church, do your best to look in the mirror and not at your neighbor. Do your best to look in the mirror and not at your neighbor. Now, speaking of mirrors, how many of you looked in the mirror this morning? You took a look, you took a little gander at yourself in the mirror? Okay, good. I can tell. You look good. If you didn't raise your hand, I too also can tell. No, we're always looking in the mirror. Mirrors are a big deal, okay? And in our house, between my wife and I, one of us looks in the mirror more than the other person. Well, she has hair to work with, okay? So I don't have to look so much in the mirror. Mirrors are kind of a big deal with my wife. And just to kind of set up this story, we have this outdoor shower at our house. And so every spring I open up the outdoor shower. I love our outdoor shower. And that's a lot of times where I cut my hair. Now, you might be like, you cut your hair? Listen, if you're not bald, you won't understand this. But being bald takes a lot of work. Yeah, I got a couple bald people like, yeah, it does. I have to cut my bald hair every 2 days. Okay, now if I don't, this starts growing out and it looks like a mangy, Gumber muskrat that has rabies. Okay, it doesn't look good. I look like I have a muskrat toupee. And so I had to cut it every 2 days. And so last year I had this mirror in my shower to cut my hair. And this year when I opened up the shower, the mirror wasn't there. And I started freaking out, okay, because, I'm a public figure and all, and I got to keep this thing shiny. So I started looking around the house. And under Stacy's sink in the bathroom, guess what I find? The mirror, okay? And so I took it without asking, which was a big, stupid move, okay? Apparently I've learned nothing after 16 years of marriage, nothing. Because I had Stacy's mirror from under her cabinet. I got the mirror, and I had it for 2 seconds. And Stacy's like, Joel, have you seen my mirror? Now, has somebody else's tone ever forced you to lie? Is it just me? I'm like, do I have your mirror? What's it look like? She's like, you dirty dog. Anyway, I did have her mirror. But the reason I had her mirror is because, listen, this is the mirror. We have two because Stacy now got me two because she's like, you're never taking my mirror. I'll get you two so you don't take my mirrors. But I need to look in this when I cut my hair because if I cut my hair without the mirror, I'm just doing it as the Spirit leads. It's not good. I got to look in the mirror. And so I tell you all that because isn't it true? We can't get through life without looking in the mirror. Isn't that true? Some of you are like, meh. Listen, we need a mirror, people. It's not debatable. We need a mirror. But here's my point. We'll put this on the screen. You need to look at yourself in the mirror to improve the person in that mirror. Isn't that true? If you see it, say, I see it. Get it? I see in the mirror. Okay. But this is so important about our church because when we're here, we want to look at ourselves in the mirror and not look at other people and judge them. But I have a question. Have you ever been sitting in church and hearing a message and you thought, oh, so-and-so definitely needs to hear this? Did you see what she posted on Facebook last night? What she posted on Instagram? I'm pretty sure Mark Zuckerberg is going to arrest her. Have you ever thought that during a message? Listen, have you ever elbowed your spouse during a message? Has that ever happened? Some of you got bruised rib cages because of that. But church should always, every single time, be a place where we look at ourselves in the mirror and a place that we don't look at other people and judge them. Now, you might send somebody a message because you think it might help them, but helping somebody and judging somebody is different, right? And so let's go back to this story. Speaking about judging and Pharisees, you have Jesus there. You have all these church chads there eating their hummus, and you have this woman. She poured the Burberry perfume on his feet. Now she's into the Calvin Klein perfume. She's pouring on his feet. She's crying. She's taking her hair and like flossing Jesus' toes with her hair. There's definitely a Pharisee in the corner gagging as this is happening. But then this is what happens in verse 39. Okay, when the Pharisee who had invited him, Jesus, when he saw this, he said to himself, if this man Jesus was a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him. She's a sinner. Now here's my question for you. Is this Pharisee looking at her or is he looking at himself in the mirror? Her. And he's thinking, she's a sinner. And he's totally missing that. So is he. And you would think he would know. I mean, this is a Bible expert, okay? Like maybe he would have known Psalm 14. Do you guys know what Psalm 14 says? Oh, this is good. If you're ever in Bible trivia and you need this is good. Psalm 14 says this, but no, all have turned away. All have become corrupt. No one does good. Help me out in this last part. Not a single one. I'm kind of like the person who, if I could go back in time, I will get this on a bumper sticker and I will slap it right on the back of this Pharisee's donkey. Okay, just put it right on the back of the donkey so he could be reminded that no one is good, not a single one, okay? And here's my point. The church isn't a place for us to get a bunch of religious ammo so we can look at people and say, hey, are you getting this? You better change your burn, buddy. No. Okay, the church is a place where we go and we listen and we say, Jesus, what are you trying to say to me? How do you want to? What are you doing in me? How can I live more like you? That's what Jesus wants for his house. And if he wants to address something in them, guess what? He will. Now, speaking of houses and addresses, has anybody ever had a package delivered to your house accidentally because it wasn't yours? Has this ever happened to anybody before? Yes, okay. Happened to me this past winter. It's a bummer when that happens because I pulled up to my house and I see this big old package on the front porch. And I knew I didn't order anything, but I had this thought. I thought, my wife, she's ordered me a special gift. This is a surprise gift, which was the best kind of gift. And then I went to go pick it up, and it was heavy. And heavy means expensive. And so I started daydreaming. I started thinking, this is probably like an Apple virtual reality headset. And here's the thing. I don't need an Apple virtual reality headset, but I also don't not need an Apple virtual reality headset, And so I looked at the box, and it said my neighbor's name. And then I had a sinful thought. I thought, it's not my fault it ended up on my porch. I didn't put it here. Now it's my porch, so it could be my box. Come on, how many of you might have just been tempted a little bit? Come on, okay, there's 3 porch pirates in the room. Cool. Don't worry, I did not take it. I gave it to my neighbors, okay, because I looked up the size of an Apple virtual reality headset box, and this was a different size box, so I didn't need it. But for a while, I was obsessed with this thing that wasn't even addressed to me. And I think sometimes in church, we get obsessed about what God wants to say to somebody else, even though it's not addressed to us. And we try to do it like we're helping God. We're like, God, you're busy. You're busy, so you have trouble delivering all these messages to people, so I will do it for you. I will deliver your message to them for you. And that's what happens in this story. This guy is like, hey, she's a sinner. I think I'm going to deliver the message to her. And so this is what happens in verse 40. I love this. Then Jesus, this guy is thinking, I'm going to deliver this message. She's a sinner. Jesus answered his thoughts. Come on. When Jesus is answering your thoughts, you better drop the mic, Jesus. That's a moment. And he says, Simon, all along his name wasn't Chad, unfortunately. Simon, he said to the Pharisee, I have something to say to who? The immoral woman? No, to you. And Simon, big dummy, he said, go ahead, teacher. Come on, that's like saying, go ahead, make my day, Jesus. Go ahead. Not smart, Simon. And so Jesus is like, listen, Simon, I know you're trying to deliver my mail to her, but I got lots of mail for you too. And so, listen, at church, this is so important for us, okay? Anytime we show up here, we should be asking, Jesus, what do you want to say to me? Well, what are you addressing in me? How do you want to change me? Not, hey, Bob, are you getting this? Not like elbowing somebody, because if you notice that when we elbow people, it never pulls them closer to Jesus, it always pushes them away. And so what do we do? What do we do when we're in church? Okay, how do we get the most out of our time here? We look in the mirror and we don't judge our neighbor. Now, I know, I've been in church a long time. I literally grew up in the parking lot. I know somebody's like, well, how are people going to change that? Well, if I can't say it, it's your job, church. You fix people and you church discipline them, church. Anybody who brings up church discipline, aren't they just a fun person to be around? They have a lot of friends. They're full of joy. Listen, let's be honest. Church discipline is in the Bible, but let me sum it all up for you, okay? Every single time church discipline is mentioned in the Bible, it is meant to help somebody and not to hurt somebody. And I think Jesus modeled better than anybody that when somebody is hurting, we don't need to show them the door. We need to show them love. And so I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm going to tell somebody this, okay? Somebody in the room, you need to hear this. We are not going to show you the door here. We're not. Okay, we are not going to show you the door here. We're going to show you love. If you're hurting, we are going to show you love. Now, there is one exception to that. Well, two, okay? If you are not a Baltimore Ravens fan, we may send you out. So just, there you go, front row, got the shirt on. No, but the real exception to that, where we may show you the door, is if you're a safety risk. Okay, if you're putting our kids in danger back there, or if you're putting people in danger in here, we have a whole safety team that is in the room right now, completely undercover. But they are the ones with the biggest muscles, okay? So you might want to put that church pen back that you're thinking about stealing. But outside of that, and we'll put this on the screen, outside of that, our church is a place that chooses to show hurting people love and not the door. Now, I want to end with this story, and a few years ago, it was late one Sunday night, and I got a text from somebody, and it said, Joel, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Now, just so you know, when I get done preaching on Sunday mornings, I go brain dead for 24 hours. I don't know what it is, but this is the most tiring thing that I've ever done in my life is preaching. You ask my wife, like, I am no good Sunday afternoon. I am no good, okay? And I told our staff before, listen, if I ever get pulled over on my way home from church, I'm probably going to get a DUI. Because I'm slurring my speech. I am swerving all over the road. But I do drive home through Dewey, so I might blend in. I don't know. But I got this text, hey, urgent, call me. I'm 9 o'clock at night, Sunday night. I'm like, oh, I can't even see straight. So I called this person, and listen, I don't know if this person had a whole gallon of Red Bull or what, but when I called them, they were talking at me. You know what I mean? You ever had that happen to you? This isn't a conversation. I was being talked at, and the person was like, hey, did you know so-and-so showed up to our church drunk this morning? And they said, I could smell it on their breath. Now, I thought, are you sure? Because we're in a basement. This place has a smell sometimes. So I was like, are you sure it was? And he's like, oh, I'm sure. I smelled it. They were swerving, coming down the steps. They were drunk. That's inappropriate in church. What are you going to do about it, Pastor? And again, I'm 9 o'clock at night on Sunday. I can't even see straight. And I'm like, what are you going to do about it, Pastor? And you know what I thought about? I thought about a buddy of mine who were their church. And I remember them telling me that years ago when they were coming here as an addict, they told me, I used to come here and I would sit in the seats and I couldn't get through the entire service without having withdrawals. And so I would sometimes get up during your message, Joel, and I would go into the bathroom here. I would take a couple pills and that would help me take the edge off. I'd get high and I'd come back here to sit through the sermon. That's true. That happened in this church. And what's also true is that person found victory over their addiction in this church. And so when I'm hearing, hey, what are you going to do about this person? I'm thinking, I'm going to believe that they're going to see victory in this church over what they're struggling with. And I also was thinking, I wish you told me who they were, because I would have went up to them during the service and I would have put my arm around them and said, hey, I'm going to give you the best seat in the house. Keep showing up. I can tell that you're hurting, and this is the safest place in the world for you to be at. And you might say, well, they're drunk and that's a sin. Okay, yeah, well, guess what? The church is a hospital for sinners, not a museum for saints. And oh, by the way, have you noticed that us religious people, we love to judge the sins in others that we're not struggling with? And we'll let that sit for a second. We love to judge the sins in others that we're not struggling with. But I tell you all that because we will always be a church where we'll give a drunk person the best seat in the house. We'll say, welcome to church. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. And I'm going to say this, and this is not something that this might get me in trouble, but I knew who this person was. I knew their story, and they had a tragic story. And so I get why they showed up drunk. I get it. I'm not okay. I don't think it's okay, but I understand it. And I in no way want to be the person who kicks them out of church and introduces church hurt into their life. So, if you have church hurt, I just want to say, as a pastor, I'm sorry. If our church hurt you, if I've hurt you, I am genuinely sorry. But I hope something that you heard today helps you know what our church's heart is, but more importantly, what Jesus' heart is. Now, speaking of Jesus, I never showed you the end of the story, right? Because Jesus saw that Simon was judging this woman, and he's like, hey, Simon, okay, don't judge her anymore. I got something to say to you. Remember that? Can I show you what Jesus said to him? It's a little story with Jesus. So check this out. Verse 41, then Jesus told him, Simon, the Pharisee who was judging this woman, he told him this story. A man loaned money to two people, 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces to the other. But neither of them could repay him, so he kindly forgave them both, canceling their debts. Who do you suppose loved him more after that? Simon answered, I suppose the one whom he canceled the larger debt. That's right, Jesus said. Now don't miss this. Then Jesus, turned to the woman, and he said to Simon, look at this woman kneeling here. When I entered your home, Simon, you didn't offer me water to wash the dust from my feet, but she has washed them with her tears, and wiped them with her hair. You didn't greet me with a kiss, but from the time I first came in, she has not stopped kissing my feet. You neglected the courtesy of olive oil to anoint my head, but she has anointed my feet with rare perfume. I tell you, her sins, and they are many, have been forgiven. So she has shown me so much love. But a person who is forgiven little shows only a little love. I think Jesus is just like, walked away. And I want to end today, this leftovers talk, with this, because, and this is such a good reminder for all of us, that the more you realize how much you've been forgiven, the more loving of a person you'll be. The more I realize how much I've been forgiven, the more loving of a person I'll be. And this is where it applies to our church. The more as a church we realize how much we've been forgiven, the more loving of a church we'll be. That's what I want for you, that's what I want for me, and that's what I want for our church. And so my question to you is, will you be a church like that with me? Will you be a church like that in Rehoboth, for Rehoboth, with me? So, we're going to do a little thing. If you're in, I just want you to give me an air handshake, okay? And you can do an air spit handshake if you're in. I'm proud of you guys. I'm thankful for our church, and I'm proud of this church. Let me pray for you. Maybe you've never crossed that line of faith where you said, hey, Jesus, I do want you to be the leader of my life. I do want you to be the one who I follow. And somebody else may have heard me, but I know, I'm choosing to believe that you won't, Jesus. And if you want to just start your journey with Jesus today, while no one's looking around, if you just raise your hand, the Bible says that if we say yes to Jesus in front of somebody, and I'm watching, if we say yes to Jesus, then in heaven, Jesus will take up for us in front of his Father. And so if you want to say yes to Jesus, you want to start following him, would you just raise your hand in this room right now? I see there's hands in this room. So thankful for you guys. Let's just say this prayer out loud. If you're, just raise your hand, say this out loud with me. If you are a Jesus follower, let's not have them say this alone. Let's say this together. Dear Jesus, today I am choosing to believe that you're God's son. And I believe I'm a sinner, but I also believe you died on the cross for my sins. But you walked out of a grave alive for my forgiveness. Today I accept that, and I choose to follow you from this day forward. In Jesus' name. And everybody said amen, amen. And can we put our hands together for those who just made that commitment? That's amazing.